It might sound a little bit neurotic after all these years, still look at every single sale. We're trying to build a brand that stands the test of time. That's why the name is what it is. Bombay Shirt Company hopefully stands the test of time just as a name itself. 2025 marks 10 years of my association with Singularity. I met Madhuji back in 2015 and then Yash subsequently. And always knew, at the back of my head that I had their support. So in 2023, when honestly things were not at their brightest, but they were there and they backed us with our largest round to date. It's been 2 years since the investment, where we're pretty much in autopilot in terms of operations. The business just went to a different level. What gives BSC the right to win on the best locations? Today, every single store is profitable, and they're profitable very early. Mithun, Avnish, having built that, very, very founder-friendly. Only a founder understands empathy for another founder and what it actually takes to build a business, and beyond the numbers and the processes, the emotions that go behind.
Hi, Akshay. Hi, Akshay.
Hi.
Welcome to the first edition of Fireside Chat under Singularity 1. We are trying to put a small series to help other founders and funders understand what is it that the capital should do beyond just being capital, and how can it be a operator-investor collaboration. That's the intent of doing this. Thank you so much for taking out the time.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for making me the first guest on your show.
So we'll keep it simple, we'll keep it crisp. Let's start with the basics. What's the business of BSC in 2025?
So if I had to package it now in one line in terms of encompassing what we do, what I like to say is that we're reinventing classics for the modern Indian. So by that I mean taking classic silhouettes, but adding a spin, whether it be fabric, whether it be detailing, customizations, etc., and just giving it a little bit of uniqueness that's contextual to the world we live in today. Yeah, that's been the journey over the last 14 years now.
So give us a sense on who is BSC selling to evolvingly, and who is the core customer today for BSC?
So I think demographics-wise, we've always focused on the urban Indian male. Things again have evolved over the years. We started off wanting to be the democratic version of bespoke, meaning India's got a huge tailoring heritage, and why can't we make tailor-made shirts at an affordable price point for everybody, comparable to a price point you have for ready-to-wear shirts. As things evolved, expectations from customers evolved as well. So in terms of the quality expectations, the raw material expectations, they evolved, and so I would say from being averagely priced, we're slightly now mid to upper tier in terms of pricing, and that's just happenstance and how things have evolved. And so we target, like I said, the urban Indian male between the ages of 30 up. Yeah, typically professionals, business owners, corporate jobs, things like that. Again, skewed earlier to being more formal, and now covering everything across the board. So a variety of occasions and reasons to buy from us.
Is there a correlation of any sorts, to the wedding season or the party season, given the heritage was more formal? Do you see that happening?
So only over the last 2 years we've started paying attention to that. So to your point, this season we've done a collection called the Best Dressed Guest, which focuses on the wedding season and all the festivities that go around it. We did a little bit of that last year as well. There's definitely a spike each year between, I'd say, October to February. It's no different this year. But we're catering our product to be more targeted to that time of year. So that's a recent phenomenon and something we realize we just have to do.
A large part of our audience will be the PE, the VCs, the AMCs. They're thinking Excel sheet while they're hearing stories. What are the leading signals or key signals that Akshay looks at each week or each month to just get a sense check on how's the health of BSC and how is the macros looking? What are the 2-3 key signals for you?
Yeah, it might sound a little bit neurotic, but I still, after all these years, still look at every single sale. It gives me a really good sense of what's happening in the business, and I'm able to summarize by seeing each order just how things are trending. But in terms of lead indicators, and I know this is something Singularity harps on quite a bit, one of the KPIs I look at is NPS, because your NPS score is going to tell you how your customer is reacting to your product and service and how things are going to shape up over time. And obviously at a macro level, I look at our revenue numbers are very important, but a metric that I track quite closely is CM2. Because that tells me honestly at the health of the business, post-marketing. So what does it actually cost to acquire a customer, service the customer? And then if you can keep your fixed costs in check after that, you've got a profitable business. So going from the micro up to the macro, different indicators that I track. It is very much a service company, which is why I think that is one of the barriers to scale, and that's one of the things you really have to get the playbook right before you can scale. We're not just selling a product. Until recently, we had no products that you could take off the rack. It was all a made-to-measure service, custom-made service, which means it's a consult between you and the stylist sitting in front of you, which is also why today 80% of our sales come from our offline stores, is because people want the validation of sitting with someone, getting the consult, getting the service.
Is that the online-offline mix now?
Absolutely, yeah. It's 80-20 at the moment. Over time, as we scale, that might skew a little bit more to the online, but generally...
But that's amazing, right?
We're comfortable with that.
That story is great.
Yeah,
from an online to that number sounds
incredible. Yeah, I think, at the end of the day, we're selling a ubiquitous product. Customers are going to shop the way they want to shop, and we just have to be there to service them. In many cases, they're getting a product 7 to 10 days after they order it, and so there's a hand-holding process within that time frame. If they have alterations post receiving the product, that's another sort of facet of the service. That's again coming back to why I look at every single order. It's because every single customer matters, and until they're happy and the entire sales cycle is complete, then leads into our leading indicator of NPS. So it kind of all comes full circle.
That's the circle.
Yeah.
So essentially, like I said, Singularity stands for and believes in a operator-investor collaboration and ethos and a DNA. That's one of the things that, and also has therefore some of the operators who are now leading the investment charter. So we are very curious to hear from you, because you closed a Series B with them, in 2024. Since that journey, what has been maybe 1 or 2 instances where you can actually quote something which has been needle moving in terms of business beyond the capital?
So actually 2025 marks 10 years of my association with Singularity. Yeah, so I met Madhuji back in 2015 and then Yash subsequently, and they invested very early and participated in every round that we've done since 2015. And always knew, at the back of my head that I had their support. So in 2023, when honestly things were not at their brightest, given we had just come out of COVID, a lot of struggles for most companies like us, struggled to raise money. But they were there, and they backed us, along with Mithun and Avnish from Carrot Lane. They backed us with our largest round to date at a time that very few believed. Obviously, the capital was great, and that tells its own story. But the model here being different in terms of the operational side of things, right? So they came in having built success at Carrot Lane. There were a lot of takeaways that they could have applied here. And now I'll be honest, as a very stubborn founder, initially I resisted, saying, "Look, I've run this business for so long. Who are you to tell me how to run my business?" And I lost a few months in that battle. Sure. But as soon as I accepted that, hey, look, there's obviously merit to what they're saying, the business just went to a different level. So, everything from data to processes to just how we track metrics and indicators, things like that. It's reached a point now, it's been 2 years since the investment, where we're pretty much in autopilot in terms of operations. But that being said, that's still not the most important thing. I think only a founder understands empathy for another founder and what it actually takes to build a business, and beyond the numbers and the processes, what actually, the emotions that go behind building a business. And again, Mithun and Avnish having built that, very, very founder friendly, that's something I've really appreciated. So having them by our side through this journey, it's obviously made this a very solid company, but also for me as a founder, it's just made things a lot easier.
Is there any 1 or 2 instances that you would maybe like to
I can give you an example, given where we're sitting today, right? This Bandra store. We had a Bandra store not long ago down the street. Correct. With the capital that we have at our disposal, there's many things we could have done with the money. We could have opened stores in new locations that we're not present in. But together with Avnish, we felt that there are many geographies within the country today where our store size and location may not do justice to the actual target audience around it. So rather than opening in a location that we're not present, we said let's double down on Bandra, get a much larger store, much more visible store at a cost. Obviously, the capex is not low if you look around you. That's a tough call, saying that extra capital has to return an incremental revenue from the old store that makes sense in terms of a payback period. Now that's a decision, a very hard decision for me to take a loan as a founder, or me and my partner Chippy to take a loan. But then bouncing things like that off of a Avnish or a Mithun, that just gives us the confidence to go ahead and take those decisions. We've done that twice now with Kem's Corner, as well as now Bandra, and it's paid off in both cases, at least in the early days. So, yeah.
What are some core numbers right now that, of course, you are at the liberty of sharing, that gives a sense check of, let's say, last 3 years or 5 years, how the story for BSC has panned out till now?
So unlike tech companies, this is not going to be a hyper growth situation. We grow about 50% year on year, but that's been a consistent growth. Very healthy margins. Some of the KPIs at a store level are best in class, whether it's sales per square foot, whether it's ultimate EBITDA at the store level. Our refund rate is 1%. So a lot of best in class metrics there.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, and it just requires a certain scale before you can break even at the company level, because our fixed costs are a certain amount. But like I said, pretty consistent growth year on year. As you know, we're raising a round of funding as we speak, hopefully closing it before the end of the calendar year. And over the next 3 or 4 years, it's more of the same. So again, not expecting this to grow at a hyper pace, because hyper pace honestly comes with compromises in terms of service, in terms of quality, which we would never do. It comes in terms of choosing locations for our offline expansion that may not work. Today, every single store is profitable, and they're profitable very early, month 2 or 3 operationally breaking even, and paying themselves back within a year. And we want to maintain those metrics going forward. And so the growth I'm projecting is what we'll continue to do, and just do it at a sustainable pace. We're trying to build a brand that stands the test of time. I'm not building it to flip it. You know, it's something that should outlast me, outlast my kids, and be there for a very long time. And also, that's why the name is what it is. Bombay Shirt Company hopefully stands the test of time just as a name itself.
So you have like a more institutional vision for the brand, so it stays amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely more than me or anyone who's part of the brand.
So Akshay, looking ahead, next 1 year, 3 year, 5 years, let's say we have to just put this in context, what are the 1 or 2 big bets that you see playing out for BSC?
Yeah, I think one fundamental bet that actually kicked off about a year ago was, remember, we started off as a custom-made company where 100% of what we did was made to order. Over the last year, we've introduced categories that are now more ready-to-wear, attuned. And that has already become 40% of the business. So clearly, there's a large segment of the audience
That's a story.
who doesn't want to go through a long-drawn process when it comes to custom-made, and wants, in the era of quick commerce, everyone wants something as early as possible. And so that's something we're going to double down on. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if it flips to being 60% an inventory-led business to a 40% custom-made business as we continue to scale, which again is a big DNA shift for all of us. We're not used to having inventory and things like that. That's just how we've always operated. But I mean, every business has to evolve with the customer, right? I see that as an inevitable shift over the coming years at least.
Makes sense. It's also, in a way, I would say, a compound interest for anyone who has ever gotten a great custom shirt from a brand. It's the biggest marketing in its own to ever buy something else from a brand that you have never had.
No, that's precisely it. Clearly, you're a CMO, and that's precisely that. The idea is that you've got a tailoring heritage, understand what it takes to make one shirt.
I would trust you're ready to wear
exactly.
any given day.
Exactly. We've got millions of data points of people who have bought various sizes from us. Now, when you crunch that down to your ready-to-wear sizes, you're using data rather than intuition to arrive at those sizes. So precisely what you said.
And this way of operating is how probably makes it a long-term bet, because you're not burning anywhere where you shouldn't be. With that, last most important question, that if there is new capital infusion, what are the most logical bets you are making with that new capital that you are going to be raising soon?
Unlike years past or fundraisers past, where a lot of the capital is used to experiment on different things, I think now, being a slightly mature business, we know exactly what that capital is going to be used for. And in this case, is to scale up the offline presence. Today, as I mentioned, we'll be at 34 stores at the end of this year, and we'll grow that to 100 anywhere between the next 3 to 4 years. So much of the capital will be deployed there.
Thank you so much for taking out the time, Akshay. We want to do a more indulgent conversation with you, with Avnish, and go through the journey a little bit, because we also realize we haven't spoken on camera a while. So we'll definitely find time again, and I think we have a space also, so I'm more tempted. But thank you so much for giving us the time.
Thanks for having me.